Hey guys, so today I want to talk a little bit more about Doctor Who. Um, so, first of all, you've got the three different almost eras of Doctor Who, if you will. You've got the classic Who, the new Who, or what's now being referred to as modern Who, and then you've got the latest series, which is starting in 2023. So, you've got these three different types of Doctor Who. Now, me personally, I grew up on the modern series from 2005 to 2022, but, everyone has their Doctor. For me, it's Peter Capaldi, who's over there. So anyway, back to my point. Today, I want to talk about, a little bit in general really, about the highs and lows of the revival series. Because when it kicked off in 2005, it all went off to a great start. And then, after one series, Christopher Eccleston had to leave because he had creative differences with the showrunner at the time, Russell T Davies. So then we brought in, arguably, the most iconic David Tennant. And he had his ups and downs as well. I mean, we had well, not timeless classics, but we had, pretty good episodes like Rise of the Cybermen and Age of Steel. And we had some not so good ones like Love and Monsters. And, yeah. So, David Tennant in Series 2 had his ups and downs. Then, after Doomsday, we had to say goodbye to Rose. We were introduced to Donna Noble in The Runaway Bride, but she decided not to join us. So we were introduced to Martha Jones. And she stayed on for a series, but she left after the trauma that her family had gone through over the Sound of Drums and The Last of the Time Lords. And again, Series 3 had its ups and downs. I mean, we got the Master returning. We were introduced in a fabulous episode to the Weeping Angels in the episode Blink. We had the brilliant two-parter Human Nature and Family of Blood. But we had some not so good ones like, 42, which still wasn't bad by any means, but it just wasn't on par with some of the rest of the series. We also had things that didn't go so well down, like the Lazarus Experiment, which was a really fun concept, but I feel like it was just a little bit overdone with the whole Monster of the Week type thing. So, after Martha departed, we were reintroduced to Donna Noble, who had, personally, I think, is the best 10th Doctor companion. I know that there's probably a little bit of bias in there, knowing where she ends up with the 14th Doctor, but you know what? I think she was a damn good companion, so that's just my opinion. And her arc throughout Series 4, and going from this selfish, you interrupted my wedding, to let's save the Ood, let's help Agatha Christie, and I'm going to, and she has her memories wiped in the end, and that was absolutely heartbreaking. And even to this day, I still tear up when I watch that episode. And then, because people didn't want to say goodbye to David Tennant, he had not one, not two, not three, but 5 specials airing over 2009. Now, this was a real treat. We were treated to things like The Waters of Mars, which was top tier. The End of Time. I don't want you to go either, David Tennant. But we had to say goodbye to him eventually, and then we were introduced to probably my second favourite Doctor, Matt Smith. And he had a great post-regeneration story with the 11th Hour. And his first season had some high ups. It really did. But it also had some pretty low ones too, in my opinion. I mean, we had things like Time of the Angels and the Flesh and Stone, and the Pandora Opens and the Big Bang, but we also had some pretty low lows. I mean, The Beast Below, yes, it's the first of the 15th Doctor's proper outings, not post-regeneration, but I just think they could have done a little bit better. And the Vampires of Venice, that wasn't for me personally, but we got Vincent and the Doctor and the Lodger, so they were pretty good. And then moving on to Series 6, which was actually not bad. So you start off with the two-parter, The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon, which were really nice in setting up this series arc, and carrying on that whole River arc. So then you've got a couple of hit and miss episodes. I didn't like The Rebel Flesh and The Almost People. It's just my personal opinion. I did like The Doctor's Wife though. And then Curse of the Black Spot, we don't talk about that. That was Pirates. I love Pirates, but it's just not for me. Then we have A Good Man Goes to War and Let's Kill Hitler, which were great. Night Terrors was okay. The Girl Who Waited, I love that episode. Same with God Complex. Closing Time I liked until the ending, but we'll save more in-depth reviews of them for series reviews and episode reviews. So then we came to The Wedding of River Song, which again, good series finale. And then we come to the very interesting Season 7. The first half of it was very hit and miss. I mean, it was quite literally high, low, high, sort of mid, and then high for the first 5 episodes. And I think that was because they were trying to build up the arc of the Ponds leaving, but also they had to squeeze it in because in the second half of the season we were introduced to Clara Oswald in The Snowmen, which was a Christmas special, and then you had the second half of the season. Now, Clara is really interesting. I'll get into this more in a character analysis, but I know a lot of people aren't a fan of the whole Impossible Girl arc in Season 7. I quite like it. I think to myself, it's the Doctor, he's found someone who is basically the centre of the universe, or his universe, and he has to try and find out why they keep dying and stop them from dying. It's interesting. Admittedly, it does remind me a lot of Donna Noble and how Destiny was heading for her. But who knows? Maybe that's not such a bad thing. And her Season 7 arc was actually pretty alright. We had some not so good ones, but all in all, they were very good. And then, after the end of the season and The Name of the Doctor, we come to the 50th anniversary special, Day of the Doctor, which leads pretty much directly into Time of the Doctor, which in my opinion, I know a lot of people hate, especially on Time of the Doctor. I love it. I absolutely love it. But that's just my opinion. So then we come to Series 8. Now, Series 8 is probably my least favourite of the Capaldi era. Just because, yes, it's got some really solid ones like Into a Dalek, I like that. And Listen, the concept of Listen is amazing. But it's also got things like Kill the Moon and In the Forest of the Night, which just, for me, drag the whole thing down. And I didn't like Last Christmas. So, for me, that drags the whole season down. But you've got some bangers in there. You've got the Time Heist. You've got the Caretaker, Flatline, and the two-parter at the end. That was some good stuff. So then we move on to Series 9. Now, I'm not going to say too much about Season 9. It was fantastic. You start off with the two-parter, The Magician's Apprentice and The Witch's Familiar. Then you get another two-parter, Under the Lake and Before the Flood. Then you get a third two-parter with The Girl Who Died and The Woman Who Lived. Then you get, wait for it, a fourth two-parter with The Zygon Invasion and The Zygon Inversion. Then you get Sleep No More, which was actually a pretty interesting concept. And then you get, to finish off the season, a three-parter with Face the Raven, Heaven Sent, and Hellbent. Now, Hellbent wasn't the best. Face the Raven was top tier. And Heaven Sent. Heaven Sent is quite possibly the best episode of the entire Revival era. And that's not even an exaggeration. The music, the monster of the week, the emotions, the acting is all top tier. Top tier. But I'll get into more of that. That will probably be one of my first episodes that I will do a video essay on, because I love it. It's brilliant. And then we move on to the Christmas specials. The Husbands of River Song, which was really nice and a nice wrap to River Song's arc. And then the return of Dr. Mysterio, which is basically Doctor Who and superheroes put together. Brilliant, you can't miss with that. And then we get Season 10, which starts off with the pilot, which was nice for a couple of reasons. It introduced a new character, and it introduced us to the Doctor teaching in a university. No, I don't know about you, but that's pretty good to me. And then we get a futuristic episode, Smile, which it's alright. It's alright. Same with Thin Ice and Knock Knock. The episodes 2, 3 and 4, they're just alright, really. And then we have Oxygen, which was a banger. Then we get the Monk trilogy, if you will. Extremis, The Pyramid at the End of the World, and The Lie of the Land were all great. I think the idea, especially in Extremis, of this whole, we're living in a simulation. Personally, I love the idea because I'm fond, and I do quite often read up on the ideas of simulation theory. But that's a story for another time. And then we've got The Pyramid at the End of the World and The Lie of the Land. So those who were just great as well. And we had a couple of not great but not bad episodes with The Empress of Mars and The Eaters of Light. Then we have Peter Capaldi's big final episode before his last Christmas special, World Enough in Time and The Doctor Falls. Now, if you ask me, I think, and even knowing with all that's planned for Doctor Who in the future, I think it should have ended here. The Doctor blows up the spaceship, and you zoom into his eye as you do in the programme, and it says, "No stars. I hope there'd be stars. Fade to black." That's it. But that didn't happen, and we ended up and we got Twice Upon a Time, which was a pretty good Christmas special, and then we were introduced to Jodie Whittaker. Now, I could go on about the ups and downs of the Chibnall era for ages. I first was introduced to Doctor Who watching The Ghost Monument. And then I watched series 1 and I went back and I watched all the rest on BBC iPlayer. But I thought, this is alright. And on first viewing it is. On second viewing it goes down a little bit. I think the problem with the Chibnall era is for series 11, 12 and not so much 13, but for 11 and 12 in particular, he can hit the highs. He really can. The Woman Who Fell to Earth, The Ghost Monument, they were great. But the rest of series 11 didn't really amount to much. And yes, they all would have been great standalone stories. But that's just it. This season 11 in particular, feels like it should have been, those episodes should have been distributed throughout 3 seasons. So you could have had The Woman Who Fell to Earth, The Ghost Monument, then Rosa, but then you would have gone on to like another big sort of maybe 2-parter. And then you could have had something like Kablam, and then you could have had maybe something like the Battle of Ranskoor out of Kolos as a midway point, and then you could have had a big 2-parter finale, and you could have moved some of the ones like It Takes You Away, Witchfinders, Demons of Punjab. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the Sanja Conundrum, and Arachnids in UK. You could have moved them to somewhere else in series 12 and 13 and used them as the filler, because the whole series feels like it's filler for just the whole series, really. Bottle episode after bottle episode. Then we come to series 12. I really like the Spyfall. I like Orphan 55. And I like Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. Fugitive of the Jejune was an interesting one. Praxeus was okay. Can You Hear Me was okay. And then we get basically the last 3 episodes act like a 3-parter with The Haunting of Villa Diodati, Ascension of the Cybermen, and the Timeless Child. Or the Timeless Children. It's called The Timeless Children? Oh, okay. Anyway, I don't like The Timeless Child. But as a 3-parter it works. But again, the middle of the season just feels a little bit messy. So, yeah, then we get Revolution of the Daleks, which was, I liked it. I like the New Year's Eve specials. And then we get Series 13, Flux. Now, considering the fact that this was made in COVID, it was okay. I feel like there was probably, maybe I need to rewatch it, but probably the first half was more focused on the Flux, and then, you know, the second half it just got a little bit messy. And I think that if he had have had like maybe 7 or 8 episodes, maybe even pushing it to 10, then that would have just helped to smooth out the story a little bit. But as a premise, I like Flux. And then we get 3 specials to round out the revival era with Eve of the Daleks, which I really liked. Legend of the Sea Devils was okay. And The Power of the Doctor. The Power of the Doctor was brilliant. I absolutely loved it. But, you know, it's good. It's got Cybermen, it's got Daleks, it's got The Master, it's got Regeneration, it's got fairly decent music, and it has got The Master dancing to Rasputin. What more can you want? So I will probably start a new series whereby I go and I'll take a look at each series in depth, what worked, what didn't. I'll do a retrospective of each of the Doctors, and I'll probably do some episode analysis in the future. But that is my overall general thoughts on the revival era of Doctor Who. So I will catch you guys in the next one.